Let's go down I-95 and check in on the Washington football team as John Keim joins us now. I have not slipped up on the Washington football team yet, John. And if I do it in this conversation, well, shame on me. However, we'll go to you. We were talking beforehand, and I know that Alex Smith has been cleared. I guess the big question would be, is he in the mix at all out there?
Oh, I don't put him in the mix. Not that it's my decision, but I don't view him as in the mix for the starting quarterback's job at this point. He still has to show that. I mean, he's not even an 11-on-11 yet. So he's working 9-on-9 situations that's a good development for him. But they're definitely taking their time with it. And you only have a couple weeks left before the season starts. I just don't see how he could get up to that kind of game speed in that kind of, in that short of a time, even though he's, the veteran and all that. So this is Dwayne Haskins' job. He has to really go out and do poorly for him not to start. And I just don't look at Alex Smith as a legitimate starting option at this point. They won't know until he gets an 11-11, until he shows a suddenness in the pocket. They're not going to really know where is he really at. And so I think, we're going through little stages and steps here to get to see what he can do.
Now, we just asked Jordan, about the possibility that New York could be at one of those surprise teams. It always seems to be one that kind of doesn't have expectations and they sneak. Washington's got this great defense. I think we're all aware of that. But it comes down to the quarterback. They got the same situation there. Is Haskins making enough strides that maybe they could surprise?
Yeah, and I don't think it's hard to say because we have, I think the lack of a preseason game, the lack of, seeing another a joint practice, I think it prevents you from fully knowing it. And I will say, there are periods where he looks really good. And he had a 2-minute drive yesterday where he looked really good. He had some red zone periods today where I thought he looked good. And then there are other times where, he's sailing the ball here and maybe he's not as quite as sharp here, or he threw a pick six today because he was a little bit late on a ball, et cetera. But what they're harping on is decision-making. And he seems to have been pretty good in that area. And I will say, and this is a little plug for my podcast, the John Keim Report, but I was talking on my podcast the other day about one of the things that fans, I think, need to keep in mind is that a year ago with Dwayne Haskins, we're talking about, can he call plays in the huddle? Does he know all the formations? And the answer was no, he did not. He couldn't. He struggled to call plays in the huddle. So now we're talking about a guy who's like light years ahead of where he was a year ago. So could he get to a point? I think he could, in terms of decision-making and consistency, I think he could. The question then becomes, do they have enough around him to really then pull him up and pull the team up? And that's where I don't know that, we certainly don't have that answer at this point. I think that's where it would be tough because there are questions on the offensive line and there are questions at, there are questions at receiver, definitely questions at tight end. I like their running back setup. I think if guys stay healthy, it could be a fun group to watch. But the skill spots, the other skill spots, I think there's a question marks all over. So that's where it's hard to really go there too far with them.
How big of an impact is Ron Rivera going to be? And the news about his current medical issues popped up. How has the organization prepared in case something does happen along those lines?
Well, I think his impact can be pretty big. And this was a team, a franchise. God, it's so different right now because it's not just the coaching. It's not having Bruce Allen around. I think people, I think there's just a breath of fresh air in this organization. And I think part of that is Rivera and the way he's trying to run things. So I think he can have a big impact with the players and just setting standards and getting guys to adhere to those standards. That sounds cliched. It's a big deal because I think it's what guys want. They wanted more discipline. I think he offers that. So I think that's some of the stuff they want. I think he coaches with some passion. He'll get after guys after a practice. Like, you don't hear him a ton during practice. You will hear him, but it's after practice when he's talking to him and going over stuff. He's definitely an overseer. So I think that's big for him. And then, so I think he can make an impact there, definitely. And I think sometimes it's details, but I really think for him, it's about laying a foundation for not just this year but future years, because he definitely has a big picture, long-term vision in mind. As far as the plans go, when he can't be there, it's Jack Del Rio. Del Rio will take over if and when Rivera can't make it. And I think they know. I mean, he'll tell the players that he doesn't. He told us he doesn't expect to miss any time. Well, the reality is they do know and do believe that he would miss some time at some point. Now the question is it just during the week? Is it a Wednesday? Is it a Thursday? Would it stretch into game day? I think they're more looking at midweek stuff right now. And as he's going to be getting 5 treatments a week for 7 weeks. It's a lot. And he knows that by the middle to end of the week, it's going to take a toll. That's when Del Rio may need to step in and take over. And the one benefit for Rivera or for the team is that Rivera, again, is the overseer. So I think the fact that, if he has to step away, the fact that the players are going to have the same voices in the meetings, the same coordinators, the same position coaches, that's not going to change. I think that helps. So, they wouldn't get the overall team message. They could get that from Del Rio, but just their daily preparation will stay the same. So I think that will benefit them.
John Keim, finishing up on Washington here. We all heard about this defense. How good is it?
I would say this, and I think any Washington fan, if they happen to be listening, will say the same thing. We've heard this before, right? For the last couple of years, their defense is going to be better, and then they're not. But I do think that this group can be a lot better because of their defensive front and adding Chase Young. So they have 4. They have Chase Young, Ryan Kerrigan, Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat, all former, or not all former, they all were number 1 first-round draft picks. It's a lot of talent up there. And I think then they go into a 4-3. I think that's going to suit some of these guys better. And Montez Sweat, I think you'll see a difference in him because he's not going to be thinking as much when he had to play a 3-4 outside linebacker last year. So there's talent there. The question then becomes, how is the back 7 going to do? We're not quite sure exactly what the setup is going to be at linebacker. I think it'll be some combination of Thomas Davis, Cole Holcomb, and then either a John Bostic or Sean Dion Hamilton in the middle, something like that. And then the secondary. Now, they've been pretty pleased with their corner play in training camp. And I think it could be, I don't know, you don't have a star there, but I think you have some guys who should be pretty solid out there, Ron Darby among them. But again, stay healthy. So I think it has potential to be a lot better. I'm not going to use the word great with this group yet because you got to go out and do that. And I think they know that, but they do have some really good potential. I still look at this group as, again, laying a foundation. I think I could see them creeping up and close to the top 10 as far as statistics go, maybe even getting in there. But I think the following year is when you really probably can start to build something even better.
That's our old buddy Ron Darby out there. Forgot about that. John Keim covers the Washington football team, ESPN's NFL Nation. Check out his podcast, The John Keim Report, at John_Keim, Keim. And he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. We'll go to Dallas in the 5 o'clock hour. John, appreciate the time.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
And we'll have to catch up more with John as we get closer to the season.